Angels is sponsored by Newcastle County Government.
Hello and welcome to a special series of shows brought to you by DETV. I'm Matt Ford. In these troubled times, there are people who see a problem and they are often the solution themselves. And that's why here at DETV, we're calling them everyday angels. Angels come in all shapes and sizes, colors and creeds. There are angels among us, and in tonight's show, our angel is more than special. Some may know him as a neighbor, a friend, or a colleague, but you might know him as the man who pulls his sleigh down the road with his motorcycle. Yes, you heard that right. Instead of in the air with magical reindeer. Rocco Malin is a former U.S. Marine who currently works for his family's small business in Newark, Delaware. But outside of his full-time gig, he's better known as Motorcycle Santa. Every year, Rocco and his buddies spread Christmas joy to children by bringing them gifts via motorcycle. His nonprofit organization is based here in Wilmington and focuses on providing for those in need in a non-conventional way. Now, before we introduce you to Rocco, let's take a look at one of his recent treks.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a horse. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. What fun it is to ride in a horse open sleigh. Oh, the way, jingle, what the way, jingle, oh, the way, jingle, what the way, jingle bells, jingle all the way. What fun it is to ride in a horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making our spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight.
Yeah, she's waiting for me. Hey! I gotta go back to Mount Crumpet tonight. And get some onions, some toxic sludge, and me and Max. We're gonna eat all of it. I love it. That's how my heart.
Lots of smiles there. So please join me in welcoming Motorcycle Santa, better known as Rocco Malin. Rocco, thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. It's my pleasure.
So for those who don't know, Rocco and I go way back. We've known each other since we were in about kindergarten. So as soon as we knew we were doing this special, I reached out to him and he said yes immediately. And we appreciate that because I know how busy December is for you.
Absolutely.
So
I'm happy to be here. Very happy to be here.
So I'm very familiar with Motorcycle Santa because I've known you for a long time and since it started. But for those who aren't familiar with it, let's start from the beginning. How did it get started and when?
It started in 2015, and it was a few days before Christmas, and I was looking at the weather, and the weather was supposed to be low 70s and sunny on Christmas Day. So I'm a big motorcycle enthusiast, so I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to go for a ride on Christmas morning. And being Christmas, I said, maybe I'll get a Santa suit and I'll dress up, which turned into a last-minute Amazon purchase, and playing the part of Santa. I said, I can't ride around empty-handed. And I said, why don't I buy a few gifts? So me and my friend Jay went out and spent about $100 worth of gifts and rode around dressed like Santa and an elf and handed stuff out to complete strangers. And from there, kind of took off. Planted the seed.
I remember seeing, I think it was on your Facebook page that you were, I know you had, I don't know if your friend was taking the photo behind you. I think there was a car behind you and they were videotaping you.
Yes.
And you were giving, I think you had left, I don't know if there was a gentleman pumping gas or at a gas station, and you dropped off a gift for him and he was jumping up and down just for joy at a red light. And it was so funny, it took off and I was like, yeah, that's definitely the Rocco I know. Like people were like, does this surprise you that Rocco is doing this? And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, this is totally a Rocco idea, and for those of them that know him, this is absolutely something that would come from his heart. So that's great.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate.
So you said this started in 2015, and we're going to get to in the next segment how much it's grown. But when it started in 2015, what did you think it would become? Did you think it would just be this one-time thing? Did you hope it would grow for the next couple of years?
Well, going into it, I didn't expect it to become anything, to be honest with you. It was just a last-minute idea, which I have many of those, but at the end of the day, after we got done and we rode around through the city a little bit and stopped and saw some kids and handed stuff out there. And then by the end of the day, it was a really fulfilling feeling, and I really enjoyed it. And I said, next year, I think I'm going to do that. And working at the time, I was bartending at Catherine Rooney's. And so after Christmas, all my bar regulars caught wind of it. And they're like, oh, that's so cool. And I showed them some pictures. Yeah. And so the following year, after Thanksgiving, leading up to Christmas, they said, you're going to do that, what you did last year, dress up like Santa? And I said, I might do that if the weather permits. And so they started bringing donations into the bar while I was working.
Right. And
next thing you know, I had a handful of donations, and I said, I guess I have to do this year. And so I put the suit back on and did it again that year. And it kind of really took off from there. And the third year is really when it got pretty serious. And we had more donations that I could fit in my backpack for the motorcycle. Right. And that's when we got into, all right, the idea of building a sleigh to pull behind the motorcycle.
A little tease for you. We're going to talk about that sled in just a minute. Now, I want to talk about, you have many organizations. Now, you've been doing this for 2015, so I guess this is your 6th year, if I'm counting correctly?
Correct.
So some of the organizations that you partner with, can you tell us some who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our biggest recipient of our donations is the Ronald McDonald House. But prior to getting to the house, when we make our big delivery, we work with Ascending Queens, which is a local nonprofit here in Wilmington, and they focus on finding specific families in need, and every year it's a different theme. This year it was kids who grow up being raised by their grandparents, whether the parents were deceased or incarcerated, so they had 22 different families this year that they supported, and we helped donate majority of the donations for the Christmas list for those families. In addition to those, my sister, she teaches with kids in not so good neighborhoods as well, and so this year we had 8 to 10 families that she provided for me that we donated to. And then we also have individual families that reach out on the side that we kind of do in private that we donate to as well. All this leading up to the Ronald McDonald House.
I'm sure you make their holidays very, very bright.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling. It is, absolutely.
I'm sure. We have a lot more to talk to about Motorcycle Santa. Rocco's going to hang around after the break. Stay with us. You're watching DETV. All right, so that video was just like a sneak peek of the video to come, right? I know you have a bunch of editors and videographers compiling the video of this year's ride.
Yes, correct. Yeah, we'll have a big feature film, not feature film, but
One day it'll be a feature film. I hope. This is big, right?
Yeah, you never know. We could go to the moon.
Who would you want to play you? I should say, in a feature film, who should play?
Jim Carrey.
That's a good one.
Although he does already play the Grinch.
Yes, he may need
the Grinch
to.
that we have mimics very well. So maybe I'll leave
Jim
Carrey
Carrey to
untouched.
him.
I'll have to
think
revisit the
about
drawing
that.
table
Yeah,
for that one.
When you're back next year, we can tell you about the,
There
the
you go.
feature film.
I'll have some time to think about it.
Perfect. So you started. Tell us where you started this year's ride and why that's so significant to you.
So this year, we really connected with St. Elizabeth, where I went for 12 years. The Grinch, who is on our board, he went with me to school there for 12 years. So we connected with St. E's, which is good because it's good to keep the alumni involved and the charity that we have going. And all of the boxes that we have that go out to various businesses that raise the donations, they assembled all the boxes, they wrapped all the boxes, and then they did a huge toy drive internally within the school that all the families donated to. So to kick the day off, we started at St. Elizabeth. We rode up there, and all the students come out and they bring all the donations that they've been working so hard and diligently to raise for us.
Right.
And it's not only about just picking up the donations from them, it's really interactive. Everyone's dressed in character. We have a DJ playing music. We got trucks and trailers, and there's all type of visuals for the kids that really excites them. And we have candy canes we're throwing out. So it's picking up all the donations in a festive fashion, essentially.
And this isn't any small production. You guys shut down the street in front of St. Elizabeth.
Yes,
and
yes.
this isn't any small potatoes.
Not at all, not at all. The last 2 years have required a police escort, especially this year, just due to the logistics of everything, because there's so many different moving components, and it's tough to do on Friday during rush hour traffic as well.
So you started it there at St. E's. This was this past Friday afternoon, right?
Yes.
You started it there. So I want to go back a little bit. You didn't always have this big entourage and this big sleigh and the four-wheelers and the DJ and all these characters with you. It started small and then it grew. Can you take us through a little bit of the transition of how you started and now where it was in 2021?
Yeah, absolutely. Essentially, to be honest, we've just kind of been making it up as we go. It started with a unique idea, and that's really all that you need. And then from there, you just grow. And it was the second or third year is when we had a good amount of donations coming in from the bar. And that's when I reached out to my friend, Matt Edgar. He's a custom metal fabricator. And I said, what do you think about building a sleigh to pull behind my motorcycle? I know it doesn't make sense because Santa's, usually behind the sleigh cheering it on. I'm like, it's kind of reversed, but we need something bigger to carry all the donations.
Right.
So he constructed that sleigh that year. And then from there, it was just like, all right, who else wants to dress up and ride with me?
Right.
And that's when everyone started to get into character. And then the truck started to get added. Everything just kind of got added each year as the ideas started to come in.
That's awesome. Very cool. So I also want to talk a little bit about your family business. That's your day job. Motorcycle Santa takes a lot of your time in December. I know you plan for it months beforehand, but you also have an important family business. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Malin's Deli down in Newark, Delaware. My grandparents started it back in 1974, and it's been in the family ever since. So business is doing good. We do a lot of cheesesteaks down there. So if you guys are hungry at all, go check us out.
I can vouch for that.
So yeah, I work down there full time with my dad, my uncles, and a couple of my aunts as well.
Awesome. So before we go to break, you had posted something on your social media that was kind of cool. As most of you know, the Rockefeller Christmas tree in New York City was local this year. It came from Elkton, Maryland, right outside of Newark, and you have a little bit of connection to that, right? To the tree. You had a delivery that was called in.
We got a large order called in. And when I took the address down, it looked familiar, and I remember reading an excerpt on the news about where the tree was located.
Right.
So we started to speculate, this might be the house where this tree's at, but I didn't think much of it. And then when we took the delivery, it was actually to feed the crew that was disassembling the tree.
Very cool.
So I was able to talk to the head arborist that works for the Rockefeller Center, and he couldn't have been more than nice. He took me around, showed me the whole operation, what it entails. And we dropped the food off, and he actually was nice enough and mentioned that after the tree comes down, they send it and they get pieces of the wood milled, and they stamp it with Rockefeller, this 2021, And so he's going to give us one for the store and
That's super
recognition
neat.
of it.
That's
which is
awesome.
Pretty cool.
Little piece of history there. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rocco's going to stick around. After this break, we're going to dive more into Motorcycle Santa's personal side. Stay with us.
Auto accident, medical negligence, work injury. Contact Team Tice, your Delaware personal injury lawyers. Leroy Tice in Wilmington, Delaware, serving and supporting the people of Delaware. Call 302-489-2400. That's 302-489-2400. Online at teamtice.com.
Let DART do the driving. DART First State provides transportation that is clean, safe, reliable, and affordable. Plan your trip and get real-time bus information with the free DART Transit app. Scan your phone to pay your fare with the free DART Pass app. So what are you waiting for? Try transit today. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
Welcome back to DETV News' Everyday Angels. We're back with Rocco Malin, better known as Motorcycle Santa. Rocco, we talked about the journey, and this is the 6th year, and how huge Motorcycle Santa has just exploded all over town here. But I want to go a little bit back and rewind the tape here and talk a little bit about your history. We know you're a local guy. We know you're from Wilmington, graduate of St. E's, and we want to talk a little bit about after St. E's, you continued your education and you went into the service. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so after I got my associate's degree, I went into the Marine Corps Reserves. And after my initial training, I was in drilling status, so I was just once a month while I was finishing up my bachelor's degree. And it was during those years, I planned on staying in long term, but it was during those years where I received kind of a bizarre medical diagnosis, a vascular issue that I had up in my chest, and it required surgery immediately. And shortly after that, I needed surgery again on the other side. And that's ultimately what led to me being medically discharged and got out of the military from there.
All right, and then you didn't just have those 2 surgeries. From what I understand, you had almost 10 surgeries. Is that right?
Yes. So I had a wave of surgeries regarding the vascular issues that I had in my thoracic area, and healed up from that. I was out of the service, so I was kind of just making up for lost time. And then in my mid to late 20s is when I was diagnosed with avascular necrosis, which is a condition in which the bone in your joints doesn't get enough blood flow and the tissue starts to die. And so it essentially just destroys the joint. And it started in my one knee, and I had a few surgeries on that didn't do too much. And I ended up having to travel up to Penn University, and I found a great doctor there who diagnosed it not only in my other knee, but I had it in both of my hips. And ultimately that required me traveling to the Cleveland Clinic out in Ohio. So all in all, I've had 10 surgeries between the thoracic areas and then my knees and both of my hips.
Yeah, wow, that's great. So after you had that, did you sort of like look back, and was that, the sort of life changes that you went through, especially physically, I'm sure mentally it took a toll as well. Did that have anything to do with starting Motorcycle Santa and wanting to give back? How did that kind of play into it?
It really did, because everything that I had go on, I really had to put my entire life on pause, and I had to become an advocate for my own medical circumstances, which required, searching out the best doctors, because what I had going on was so rare.
Right.
It was, the hardest part was finding help, was finding treatment, and the doctors around here were honest and telling me they didn't know what the next step was. So having to go through being an advocate for my own health and traveling out of state just to get seen by these doctors, let alone scheduling surgeries and the time and the expenses and everything that it entails, it really just engulfs your life. So when we work with the Ronald McDonald House, and I go and I talk with these families and these kids, and their circumstances are tower over anything that I could ever endure. But it's a similar concept where, they're traveling from out of state to get their medical treatment. And that really resonates with me, because I know how much of a burden it can be on your life. And these people are traveling from all over the place. Yeah. But this past Friday during our ride, I spoke with the family, and they were all the way from Pakistan. Wow. And it was their second time here, and it made me realize how unique of a hospital A.I. DuPont is, because it really is world renowned. And there's people, another gentleman, his diagnosis was 1 in 50, and he was the only person within 6-hour drive of the hospital that had the doctor who could treat it. So it really puts into perspective the lengths of which these families go just to get medical treatment for circumstances that they didn't even ask for. So
That's incredible.
that resonates with me very much, especially when we make our delivery there.
Yeah, I'm sure those kids are just sure that makes all the work
It
more
helps
than
them
worth
forget
it,
about everything they have going on just for a little bit and just be happy and put a smile on their face. And that's what it's all about.
So before I let you go, I want to talk about, you didn't let any of that get you down. You did 2 pretty massive things after that. So after you got out of the hospital, what was like the first thing you wanted to do after that?
I needed something. Every time I had a surgery, I always knew I had another one pending. So I could never really set a goal because I knew I had to have another surgery. So when I got out of my last surgery, which was in December of 2018, it was actually prior to the surgery. I found a random YouTube video of an Ironman, which was a 140.3-mile triathlon. I had never ridden a bike or swam. I was a runner, but I'd never done any other stuff. And I just needed a goal, and so I signed up for it. Wow. And less than a year, I went from my last surgery, and I completed the race out in Arizona back in November 2019.
So you met, I remember reading this, an article in the paper about you. You met a trainer down in Rehoboth, right?
Yes, yeah.
And he almost didn't want to take you on, right?
He was a little eerie about my circumstances. I had all these surgeries. I had never done a triathlon. Yeah. And I was picking out the longest and hardest single-day race that you can do. So he was doubtful, but he told me after he sat down and met with me, he just had a sense of determination in me, and he said, this guy might be able to do it. And so he took me on as a client, and he really worked with me. Bruce Clayton with TriCoach, and helped me. I had to rehab simultaneously while trying to train for this race. So I crammed a lot into a short period of time, but when your why is strong enough, the how becomes pretty easy.
I love that.
In my circumstances, that was the case.
Take us through mentally when you were doing the Ironman. Like, what's going through your mind? Is it like adrenaline? Like, you can't believe I'm doing this. And then when you finish it, is it just this overwhelming of emotion?
It was. Determination, I would say, is the word. When I was waiting for the whistle to blow and I was jumping into Tempe Town Lake to start the swim, I just knew in my head there was no way I wasn't going to finish this. And once you're determined like that, then all the obstacles don't matter. And I did the whole race in 14 hours and 52 minutes. So that's almost 15 hours of you by yourself in your head going over things. And I had enough content to go over my head that I was fine.
So after that, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough for Motorcycle Santa. After that, what was your next goal?
To hike Mount Kilimanjaro. So I did the Ironman in November, and then Motorcycle Santa kicked right in, and we were super busy with that. And about the week before Christmas, we were done with the charity efforts, and Christmas Eve, I flew to Tanzania. And I had a whole month-long trip planned out, but the beginning of it was to hike Mount Kilimanjaro, which I did with a group of my friends, the Grinch and Rudolph, who were part of the charity as well. And they hiked it with me, and we summited on New Year's Eve that year.
That's incredible.
So that was just as incredible as the finish line of the Ironman.
Wow. And that was right before the pandemic started, I imagine,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
So I got back from Africa in late January, and so about a month after that is when everything began, and so I haven't been able to do too much since then. So.
That's awesome. Do you have another goal? I don't know how you topped that, but do you have one after?
I've done one other Ironman since then. I did Ironman in Florida in 2020. And it was the only race in North America that didn't get canceled due to the pandemic.
Okay.
So I feel like that's for a reason. I needed to do that race. And so other than that, I have one race next year in Maryland that I plan on training for, that I'm signed up for. So that's the next big goal right now. But at the moment, it's just focusing on work.
Nice. So before we wrap up here, you've just completed your 6th year of Motorcycle Santa. The next 10 years, where do you hope to be with this organization?
I'd really like to branch off kind of the concept of what Ronald McDonald House does, where they help families traveling from out of state and children with rare medical circumstances. And in the fact that I went through a lot with my rare medical circumstances, I'd like to do something to more focus on people in really extreme situations where they don't have, whether it's insurance or they don't have the resources to travel. Figure something out in which we can really help families that need these medical needs.
That's amazing. Well, you're an incredible person, and I'm super lucky to know you. So we really thank you for coming on.
No, I appreciate you having me. It's my pleasure, man.
Now, I know Motorcycle Santa's trek is done for 2021, but for those watching at home and online, how can they get involved? Can they still donate?
Yeah, absolutely. You can still donate. Our website, motorcyclesanta.org. The Instagram page kind of has everything that we do throughout the year to kind of give everybody an idea. And this past year was our first year doing events outside of December. We had a 5K race that went really well.
Nice.
So when we meet in February, we're going to kind of map the year out, and I think we'll have more events between the 5K. We had a memorial golf outing, stuff like that to kind of lead into the year.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. It's growing and growing. That's
Absolutely,
fantastic.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rocco. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you again, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.
And if you want to donate to the Motorcycle Santa organization, as Rocco said, be sure to visit motorcyclesanta.org or its social media pages for more. Well, that's going to do it for this week's holiday edition of Everyday Angels. I'm Matt Ford, and for all of us here at DETV, we wish you a very happy holiday and a safe and healthy new year. We'll see you next time.
DETV News is sponsored by Newcastle County Government.